Hello. So, welcome to my fourth video on my crystal collection. If you haven't seen my previous videos, you should probably go click that first because this is just a continuation and you might not understand what I'm talking about when I'm referencing certain crystals that I previously have shown. Now with that out of the way, let's get to my first case with shelf 4. So we're going to start off with my Lodolite medium sphere. Lodolite mostly comes from Minas Gerais, Brazil, and this piece also is from said region. As a trade name, it's known as garden quartz due to the 3D landscape within. And my piece in particular is clear quartz, but it also comes in smoky quartz, and on the rare occasion, even citrine lodolite is possible and happens once in a blue moon. So these landscapes and whatnot, there are mineral inclusions. Minerals such as chlorite, iron oxide, rutile, goethite, hematite, and others. And depending on what kinds and the amounts, you'll get variations of coloring such as greens, browns, oranges, reds, whites, pinks, and purples, just a variety of colors. And yeah, these inclusions that occur create unique pictures and worlds that resemble forests, outer space, underwater, mountainous climates, and such. And so they're just really interesting just to look at, and every piece is always unique in some way, which is awesome. And yeah, really love Lodolite. So next is my Moss Agate Small Tower, and unlike my medium moss tower that I had shown previously that had more lavender shades and such, this piece is what Moss Agate commonly looks like in color, with the white and green swirls running throughout, and has more of a clearer chalcedony. And then next I have my Smoky Quartz Cluster specimen. It's just a small cluster at that, and it's got a very sort of lighter hint of smoky, and it seems to have formed on top of a layer of chalcedony. So just a little small thing. Then I have another small specimen, but this time it's my green purple fluorite specimen. Now if this piece here was carved and polished, the trade name would most likely be considered rainbow fluorite because of the blending of the green and purple colors rather than candy fluorite, where there's more a clear defined color zoning going on. Yeah. Moving on to a fairly popular crystal that I'm sure you've come across at some point, and that is my Satin Spar Raw Stick specimen. So a lot of times you'll find this carved into towers or carved and polished into bowls and trays and such. And you probably also heard it being referred to as selenite. And while it's in the same family of selenites, it's actually satin spar. So again, another instance of mislabeling. And I'm just going to show you what selenite actually looks like, which is this. And yeah, so it looks more like glass. But when you got this cat eye effect here that's going on, you can be sure that it's satin spar. And I just want to point out that you need to be aware that if it's any other color, you can pretty much be sure that it is dyed, and yeah, it doesn't come in any of these colors. And another thing I'll mention here is that for almost all crystals, rinsing them with water is perfectly fine just to, get off any dirt and dust and all that. It should not be an issue. Even though you'll hear a lot of people, talking about how you can't, get them wet or, put them in with water. Well, all of that's pretty much rubbish. It's fine for the most part. But with satin spar, it would be best to use a damp cloth instead and dry it afterwards, because dunking this crystal will have an effect that would be dissolving. It would start to dissolve. Other crystals you don't really have to worry about, because there tends to be a lot of scaremongering when it comes to getting your crystals wet for some reason. I don't suggest having them soaking in water and submerged in water for like long periods of times, like weeks at a time or months, just because it can cause them to become more brittle, which causes crystals to crack or just break easily. And since we are discussing water and crystals, I'm going to bring up something else kind of related, which is crystal elixirs. So I don't care if this is going to offend some people out there because it's actually important. It's one thing if you want to use crystals to meditate and use as kind of like a safety blanket to help with feelings of stress or anxiety or fears, if that helps you. But when it comes to crystal elixirs, okay, it is dangerous and just stupid. It's a stupid thing to do, so just don't. Crystals and minerals of any kind should never be ingested, and that includes soaking them in water, then drinking the water. Because it's a surefire way to eventually kill you. You know, that's going to end up happening if you keep doing it. Because even clear quartz is unsafe. You can never be sure what inclusions are present. And these inclusions are toxic. And they will leach into the water, and it only takes like a minuscule amount to do serious harm and damage to your body. Damage such as blindness, migraines, brain damage, organ failure, and yes, death. And once it's in your system, there's no way to remove it from your body. Not by like a medical doctor or having it flush itself out. Once it's inside, you're fucked. So just don't do it. It's stupid. And I'm going to put on screen something else that I want to mention as well when it comes to safety and crystals. Don't use this. Right here, don't use this. This is stupid. Again, very stupid. And I can't, for the life of me, fathom why anyone would make these. But they do, and they're out there. So smoking out of a crystal pipe is just as dangerous. These really should be outlawed. But since they're not, I'm just telling you right now, don't be an idiot and use crystal pipes. Never a smart idea. Next is my Chevron Amethyst Mini Wand. And this happens to be my second crystal I've ever owned that I got not far from when I was gifted my Fluorite Tower, which I showed in a previous video. This piece was actually gifted to me by my mom, though, and it came in the form of a pendant that, after just a few years, the pendant broke. Not the crystal, just the metal part of it, and so it was easy enough to just remove the amethyst without any damage to it, and just kept it as it is. So amethyst is just quartz with inclusions that produce this purple coloring. And in terms of Chevron amethyst, the difference is that it's banded with milky quartz, milky being, white. And these bands form distinctive triangular or chevron shapes. However, it's not as clear in this piece simply because it's really small. You can see a little bit here, but being so mini, there's not much chevroning. It's still chevron though, so. Next is my clear quartz point with lithium hematite druzy specimen, and it's exactly how it sounds. It's just clear quartz with hematite druzy containing small amounts of the alkali metal of lithium, giving it, the hematite, a dark, deep, sort of blackish purple color in hue. This specific piece comes from Afghanistan. It's very small and yeah, still really pretty and especially clear. Now next is my clear quartz point specimen, and what's interesting about this piece is that I actually found this in a forested park that's literally located right behind my backyard, because like my property, it just sort of leads straight to that park, and there's this pond, and when I was walking around the pond, I just happened to stumble across this crystal. And yes, you can find loose crystals, but you still have to usually dig a little in the ground to find them. But this one was just literally laying on top of the ground, so just off the trail just a little bit. And because of that, I don't know if someone perhaps lost it or whatever, or even if someone had left it up there on purpose, because I know that some people will leave crystals out in the wild like that for people to find. I've seen videos on Instagram of people doing this and stuff, so I don't know. But either way, I spotted it, and so now it's mine. And yes, it does pass the scratch test, and you could tell even if you didn't do a test that it's real, like you could just tell. That also, it passes the magnifying test, and if you don't know about that test, when it comes to quartz, unless it's carved into a sphere or whatever, will not magnify objects if you look through them, whereas glass will magnify objects. So, moving on to my Smoky Amethyst small wand. The smoky is very subtle, but it's there, and you could tell this has great clarity. That's because it comes from Brazil, and Brazil is definitely the region where you want to get your quartz because it's known for being just great quality coming out of that region of a variety of different kinds of quartz, such as, well, amethyst and smoky amethyst. Then we get to my blue lace agate with quartz small tower. This does have some banding here, but not much of it. It's not very prominent, which is fine. Why I was drawn to this tower in particular is simply just because this whole one side is just full of small yet chunky quartz, just covering the whole side of it, and yeah, I just thought that was pretty. Then we move on to my blue purple fluorite specimen. So yes, another fluorite specimen. However, this coloring and size is obviously very different from what I showed you just previously in this very video. And actually you can make out the distinctive color zoning here. This piece or specimen comes from China, which is well known in the mineral crystal world as being one of the best places to find fluorite, even though it's not necessarily limited to this region alone. You know, China, like fluorite comes from everywhere. But yeah, they're just really well known for having great fluorite. And now drumroll please for my favorite crystal ever of all time, which is my Vivianite specimen, aka the Corpse Crystal. Yes, you heard right. Vivianite is referred to as the Corpse Crystal because it's been known to, well, it grows on dead bodies, and it has been used to help date time periods using forensics and such. Vivianite can run on the more expensive side since nicely formed and big crystals like this kind, they're rather rare. The more well-known localities of this crystal that produce the best kind of specimens are Brazil and Romania. This piece in particular is from Brazil. It is extremely fragile, one of the most fragile of all crystals out there, landing on the Mohs hard scale as a 1.5, which is very, very brittle and very, very fragile. One of the reasons why I love this crystal just so much is actually because of the feel of Vivianite. It's so smooth and soft, like it feels soft, just gliding your fingers over it. You can just, it feels different. I wish you could reach inside this video actually, so just to touch it so you know what I'm talking about, because it's kind of hard to explain and describe. Another interesting feature is its color. So Vivianite starts off as colorless, and yeah, it only changes when exposed to sunlight, and then it quickly oxidizes, turning into this dark bluish green color. And hopefully you can see the hints of blue hues when I spin it around here like this. But yeah, just incredible. Love it, love it, love it. But anyways, that is all I've got for you today. Make sure to be on the watch for my next video, my next crystal video, because it will be coming out soon. Bye!